Scheduling change for Week 7. Buccaneers, Raiders out of prime time. Seahawks, Cardinals into prime time on NBC. Now, look, I just said earlier this week we need more Kyler Murray in prime time, no matter what the score is. I love watching any game with Kyler Murray in it. I am smitten with his skill set, speed, awareness, agility, all in one like the NFL has never seen. But this isn't happening because somebody said, hey, we want more Kyler Murray in prime time. This is happening because the Raiders are the latest team to have a COVID-19 outbreak. Some of the details that are out there are extremely troubling when you consider the lessons supposedly learned by everyone in the aftermath of the Tennessee Titans situation, Peter, from a couple of weeks ago. The idea that guys were in the facility without masks on. Trent Brown, the guy who tested positive, not having his tracking device, so they can't figure out who had close contact with him. The entire offensive line sent home as a precaution. You know, this is the first time we have an outbreak plus enhanced protocols that basically send everyone out of the building who may have been in close contact with the people who tested positive. And the Raiders are going to have a hell of a time putting a competitive team on the field on Sunday. I don't think the league is going to give them a break and say, well, you don't have guys available. We'll give you, a game on Tuesday instead when maybe you do, or we'll make this the first game of our 18th week because both the Raiders and the Raiders have had their bye. So it's not like you can reschedule it to a later week in the season. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the league deals with the Raiders. Right now, their game is set for 4:05 on Sunday. And I, again, don't know how much of a break they're going to get, even if they have a bunch of guys who aren't allowed to come back as a precaution that they may develop COVID-19.
Yeah, the Bucs are really going to get stuck with this, Mike, honestly. And you knew that, we've been saying all along this season is going to be unfair. And this might be the first big example because you're right. This is the first game that cannot be rescheduled by pushing around a bunch of buys. Because, one team has had its bye, and so there's no wiggle room there. But I agree with you. I think the NFL is at least as of yesterday, was very much inclined to try to play this game some point no later than Tuesday. But I'll just say one other thing. When the NFL created this 8-person, I call it sort of kitchen cabinet advisory board to Roger Goodell, the Bill Polians and Troy Polamalu's and Isaac Bruce's, to just basically ask them, okay, what do you think? What should a team have to do? This was the specific example that was given to me. What if an entire position group is unable to play? And, are we going to take the risk of putting, let's say, a franchise quarterback at risk if the entire offensive line can't play? That is why I think in the next 2 days, the NFL is going to have some significant decisions to make about this team and this game. And the next day, really. But, Mike, you also mentioned Trent Brown and the tracking device. In my opinion, if it is found that Trent Brown was not wearing his tracking device even if it's only one occasion, okay, that should be, in my opinion, a heavier sanction on them than will be on the Tennessee Titans. Because there are some things that absolutely, categorically, without exception, you have to do. You walk into your facility every day, and the first thing you do is you take a COVID test, you get your temperature taken, and you put on the tracking device. Period. End of story. If you weren't wearing your tracking device, Trent Brown has to get fined heavy. The Raiders have to get fined heavier. That is totally absurd. You talk about the Wild West. That is a ridiculous, evasion of protocol by the Raiders and by Trent Brown, if it is true.
And what a shock. What a shock if it turns out being the Raiders, given the video we saw a few weeks ago of all the guys without masks in a confined space with a bunch of people without masks. The Raiders have been on the edge of this all along, and I'm surprised it took as long as it did for the Raiders to have some sort of an outbreak. And you know what? It's fitting. If Jon Gruden is not buttoning up his roster, getting his locker room to comply, and he's going to have his opportunity to face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers undermined because of it. He gets what he deserves, Peter, because it ultimately comes down to him. He's the one that needs to make sure that his guys are doing what they need to do. Some coaches are, some coaches aren't. He's not, and he's going to potentially be undermanned when it's time to get a little revenge on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.